Namaste everyone. My name is Vaishali Shah. I welcome each one of you to our session on Hindu culture and lifestyle. You're watching us live on our page hinduscriptures.com, and you will get to see this video tomorrow on Hindu Scriptures YouTube channel. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our Instagram channel. It's called Hindu Scriptures 1. So today we have a speaker who's going to talk about a very controversial topic. So before I welcome him and before we start, let's do a small prayer. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Shakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Sthaneshwar ji, namaste. How are you doing?
Namaste. I'm fine. Thank you, Vaishali ji. How are you?
Yes, good. So before we start our session, I would like to read your introduction to our audience so that they know who you are a little bit more in detail. Professor Sthaneshwar Timalsina ji is a professor of Indian religions and philosophies at San Diego State University. He has taught in 6 different universities and colleges, including UC Santa Barbara, Washington University, and University of Hawaii. He is an established scholar of Indian philosophy and proficient in Sanskrit. He has published 5 books and over 60 research articles in the field of philosophy, Hindu and Tantric studies, cognitive science, and religion, among others. Proficient in classical Indian analytical and contemplative traditions, German Indology and philosophy, Western comparative and philosophical methodologies. Tamsila has received his early trainings in Advaita Vedanta, Navya Nyaya, then other philosophies. His main research contributions are in Indian philosophy with a focus on consciousness studies and tantric traditions. Professor has carried out seminal research to encourage the continuation of traditional Indian thinking that has been disrupted as a consequences of colonialism, which is so true. He has given a number of radio and TV interviews, including National Geographic and PBS, and regularly organizes the panels in leading conferences. He has worked alongside various Hindu foundations in America, such as Oberoi Foundation, Dharma Civilization Foundation, Bharatiya Vichar Manch, and Waves. He runs weekly meditation sessions, gives talk to communities and yoga centers, and encourages scholars to discuss their practices. So, Professor Ji, आपका profile is तो बहुत interesting है. So, originally, where are you from? And please tell us something about your early age. How did you end up in San Diego?
it's quite a journey and ordeal, Vaishali. So I'm originally from Nepal, in mountainous zone, of course, from a village. I grew up in a Vedic environment. My father and all the generations of my grandfathers and grandfathers being teachers, we run our own Gurukula. When I was 12, my father said, look, son, if you stay in village, you will not go beyond what we have achieved in this small Gurukula, and you should go explore on your own. So I left to Kathmandu and I did my high school and undergraduate studies there, and with also alongside and all the Sanskrit medium schools and Sanskrit college. And I went to Varanasi and I did my master's, Acharya, and in Yoga Tantra from Sampurnananda Sanskrit University. And I went back to Nepal to start a department for Tantric studies. Actually, that department is still running there. My students are professors there, and they are teaching all courses up to masters and PhDs. And I decided to move to Germany and do my PhD work, and then moved to USA, and I've been teaching in different universities ever since.
That is very interesting. So what was your studies and research in Germany, and what are you doing in the US now? It's been how many years are you there in San Diego?
In USA, it's been 2 decades. In San Diego alone, I've been here for 15 years. And in Germany, the main research was they call philology. This basically studying the text, classical text, Sanskrit language, and the most essential training there was how to translate into modern Western languages. So basically, like how to the system of exact translation of the text. So that was the main training, and my book, Seeing an Appearance, A History of Advaita Vedanta, I'm speaking for the Vedanta Forum tomorrow on actually my research on Drishti Srishti that I did when I was in Germany. Yeah, in America, it's mostly these departments are comparative studies departments, and where philosophy is taught comparatively, religion is taught comparatively. And so I've been teaching more in a comparative philosophical, comparative religious context. So all the ideas of Hinduism, Buddhism are basically civilizational Hindu or Buddhist ideas. I address in a global context.
So your expression has given me this question in my mind. So before I start asking you something about the topic, I want to know, when you study comparatively, don't you think you are limiting your research to only those parameters which are set for other set of studies? Because, it is like if they are 1 to 5, so then you also have to walk only 1 to 5 steps, and then our philosophy is like 1 to maybe 1,000. So how about the other things? How do you put that forward, and how do you convince them that this is something much more than what they can even think of?
It's the challenge about what we can teach or research and what we know is always humbling, Vaishali, that we see that the field is vast, and when there is no always mirroring of what we teach and what we research. Like most of my research relate directly to Vedanta or Tantric studies, so they are not necessarily comparative in any sense. I may be just studying Abhasavada, for example. So I don't need to do a typo comparative. I avoid actually comparative religion. I do comparative philosophy though, because philosophy opens up a much wider conversation. But in terms of students, they are coming from a different culture, and their religious background is different. And when we map the alien experiences, something they never heard of, based on their own kind of cultural experience, it becomes easier for them to relate to, and easy to access something they never heard about before. So it can be taught in many ways, and therefore we need more teachers, so that they can teach in the way that it should be taught. But it just is always, we are in a global platform. I'm like, what am I doing different than my fathers did is my fathers were speaking to people in the village, raised in the same culture. I'm speaking to the audience where 99% of the people are raised in a completely different culture. Even if they are coming from Indian Hindu background, most of them born in America. And even the Indian Hindu culture is so much changed in the wake of 21st century. It is not like classical India anymore. So we have to acknowledge those changing factors.
That is so very true. So how do you justify, having this knowledge getting translated into the right manner? Because I really find it very difficult to understand that there is so much change in just 50 years in our way of thinking, living as Hindu, and that has thrown thousands of challenges to our civilizational idea and the whole definition. So what do you think, how we first of all, you think it is good or it is not good, and how, if it is
No,
bad, then how do you calculate?
No, Vaishali, it is a complicated issue rather than simply saying this is good, let's do it, or it's bad, let's do it, let's stop doing it, or we have to kind of stop people doing it. Why is, think of this way. I personally prefer to write in Sanskrit. I still do compose in Sanskrit itself. And you know how many people are going to read when I write in Sanskrit? Let's be honest about it.
True.
And I have published a book in Sanskrit. I published articles in Sanskrit. So I prefer to write in Sanskrit. But if I prefer to write in Sanskrit, I may as well just go and prefer to live in a cave. I'm sorry. I love Sanskrit so much, but this is the world in which we have to bring our ideas to the globe. And instead of belly aching, it's not going to be exact. No translation is ever going to be exact. No translation is ever going to, particularly Sanskrit, such a rich language with every word in Tantra in particular, every word has 6-7 meanings. How am I going to translate? Like, am I going to just display all possible meanings? But when we are talking about the limitations of language and translation, we have to accept the ground reality. When people are comfortable defending their court cases in English language, where, particularly in the countries where their own native languages are not allowed in the courts, we are talking about not using English for academic conversation. You know, there is this ironic situation here, and we don't want to be swayed by that type of nostalgia either, because we have to be realistic about it, because these ideas are there for the globe to share and revere, and people are not going to respect us without even knowing what it is like. So translation is a copy. Translation is not the original, but we have to give a little copy to people so they can say, oh my gosh, if even just a copy is like this, what would be the original like?
That is very true. So let's begin with our topic. So please define what is tantric knowledge in tantric philosophy, because we have Vedas, and within Vedas we have many mandalas dedicated to this kind of philosophy. So please define tantric philosophy clearly for the audience to understand, not in technical language, but what people can understand. In that topic.
Yeah, oh, what a challenge. Oh, okay. See, if you want to understand Tantra, Vaishali, just remove the word Tantra. Because as soon as you think of Tantra, you have all these messed up ideas. And start thinking fresh. I'm not rejecting the category, but we have to first accept the concept and then see that concept in its own category. So what is the concept Tantra? Tantra is agamas, actually, you know, and there are 92 agamas. So these agama writings started, I don't even know when. Most agamas were written 5 through 12th centuries, but there were pre-agamas, proto-agamas, before the agamas were even composed, Shaiva agamas, Vaishnava agamas, both the agamas. But when I speak 92 agamas, I'm talking about the Shaiva agamas. So there are these 10 Shaiva agamas and 18 Raudra agamas and 64 Bhairava agamas. Generally, we tend to identify these 64 Bhairava agamas as tantras. That is a literature. I have not even talked about a philosophy. And I will come to notoriety part, of course, you know, but what Tantra offers is there has been a misconception both in a home front and the West by completely trying to separate Tantric as juxtaposing the Vedic. And I don't read that way. It's just a flimsy way of dividing a single civilization and a single genre, single literature. It addresses something different, but it opens up. Tantra or Tantric literature opened up since the beginning to all the strata in society. Like when I was, you know, my father was teaching me the Vedas. He didn't teach the Vedas to my sister, you know, but he taught agamas to my sister as well. she was allowed to read and practice those agamas. So because in our house, we are also from the agama tradition. So agama tradition was open. There was no caste or gender or any barrier from the classical time in the agamas. So agama education was already open to everybody. It was more sadhana oriented. And if I even go to talk about the controversial sides like tantrics drink liquor or tantrics use sex, or oh, come on, who doesn't do all those things? Okay, so let's be honest here. And then why should Tantra be blamed for doing what people do nonetheless? Is because Tantra said there is nothing wrong with it. Why should people be told this is horrible thing? Is because this is like people are told to be in like a sinful situation, that it is not okay to offer. I mean, by the way, I don't drink, I don't eat meat, and people think, okay, I have been asked point blank, how can you practice Tantra if you do not even drink or eat meat or sacrifice animals? It is their misconception. There are so many different paths within Tantra, so many different ways. So what Tantra is then? Tantra is a method of sadhana. Tantra is 1,000 times of yoga practices. So if you think of Patanjali's yoga as one set of yogic practice and multiply that by 50 times, and you get basically a glimpse of what Tantra is about. So you are going to get more of those same physical yogas, more of the same breath exercises, but what you are not going to find in Patanjali's yoga system, for example, is a lengthy visualization, sustained meditation practices with varied forms of mantras, and the chakras inside the Kundalini practice, for example, because Patanjali, for example, never talks about Kundalini or chakras inside, you know, and those are all the elements coming from Tantra. So Tantra is very much a sadhana, a practice for realization, a mechanism, more like engineering and not just a theory. It's about practice to get to that experience.
So let's now come down to the specific topics of Tantra philosophy. Say, for example, Kundalini Yoga, which you mentioned. So what is Kundalini Yoga?
Okay, the basic idea is that there are two basic concepts we need to understand to go to Kundalini Yoga. Number one is Pinda Brahmanda. One is Pinda means this body. This body is Brahmanda, means the whole cosmos. Pinda, this body, is a mirroring of Brahmanda, the totality. So every individual body is a mirror image. It retains, or you could say a hologram, because it has basically every single part of what the cosmos has. And the second is every individual jiva is Shiva. The whatever the soul you have, you as person in your real nature are Shiva, the absolute, the divine. So in that sense, you can relate to Vedanta. But if you go back to Pinda Brahmanda, then there is no categorical where it comes to different from Advaita Vedanta. Is the world is not a mere illusion. The world is very much a real, an expression of the powers of the self, or Atman, or Chaitanya, the Shakti. And then there's a huge amount of Shakti worship. And what is the Shakti? Just like the metaphor of Shiva Shakti in the imagery form, like you have an image, or the Narishwara image, Shiva Shakti image. The idea is that even in our body and soul, it is one, it's inseparable. Like if you think of Ardhanarishwara, where half the body is female and half the body is the male, the world is not either or. It is not mind matter divide. It's not a mind and spirit type of a duality. The world is a continuum, and from the spirit there is a materiality, and from materiality there is a total transformation to pure consciousness, and vice versa. So it is not either or type of situation. So this is where Tantra and Vedanta are identical, is in recognizing that I am the absolute, the Parabrahman in the form of Shiva or whatever you like to call pure consciousness. But where it is different is because the world is my very expression, my very extension. So the world is like my mandala, like you can see a deity at the center, and then you have all these subordinate deities in a mandala. So the same way, if the soul is consider the ego, the Atman at the center, the everything is its own emanation or its own expression. And therefore, there is no room for something to be illusory as not real. Everything is, even your dream reality, even our dream consciousness bears some amount of some content of reality. Even our fantasies bear some sense of reality. Every mode of consciousness retains a little bit of reality. That is where Tantra differs.
Okay, so what is called Trika system? Because we have many aspect of Tantra. I'll come to controversial subtopics later. Let's define the basic things clearly. So what is Trika system? What is Spanda? All these things we need to define clearly.
Yeah, so this is something I think we need to talk more when we are having conversation on Tantra, Vaishali, for a reason, not just because we need to define these categories to make look better. No, I'm not interested in making things better if they are not. But Tantra is providing this philosophy which is most applicable and most valid for the 21st century. And we are not studying those things. And we are talking about, can I drink, or those kind of things that are kind of sort of not too relevant in modern world. It might have been very, tingy issue in like 1,000, 2,000 years ago in Orthodox Brahmin families. But in the modern world, those things are not as serious. But anyway, just coming back to the Trika system, this is a philosophy primarily advanced by the Kashmiri thinkers like Somananda, Vasugupta, Utpaladeva, and of course, foremost, Abhinavagupta and his disciples like Kshamaraja and those who came after like Jayaratha. And what they found so profound in this Trika system of thinking is when you have this para, and apara, a sort of transcending your will, desire, and your cognition and your action, motor actions, and recognizing the self while undergoing through will, through cognition, and through body, through action. Why this is important, Vaishali, is of course, when I talk that philosophical line, many people might feel, okay, this is time for me to turn off. No, but actually it gives a comprehensive method of the means by will, like how your strong will translates into your knowledge. And by using your pure knowledge, the means of knowledge, jnana, how that translates into action, and how your action translates again into the will, and how you can combine all these efforts of pure will, pure knowledge, and pure action into realizing the self, which is not either or. I'm not just the will only. I'm not something beyond the world only. I'm very much part and parcel of this world. I'm very much materiality. I'm very much action. I'm very much this body. The whole thing comes from particularly if you read this Smriti text, our body is almost like Cartesian body. I mean, that is what I mean by that is this body is, like a pile of sins and anything the body desires has to be, blocked so that we can achieve some kind of liberation. What Tantra did is, no, that is absolutely not necessary. You can very much enjoy this life and still gain all the insights and be liberated. And it is not either or, but both. So this is where the Trika system advanced the idea of oneness, singularity of the self and the world, and provided different methods of self-realization, combined approach to self-realization, and used mandalas and mantras and various forms of pure philosophical exercises, contemplative thinking like Tarka, and as a seamless course of practice for self-realization. I know you had also mentioned the word spanda. It is beautiful. It is a beautiful concept, Vaishali, because people should think of this idea that the universe is non-stop pulsating, vibrating. That is spandana, is pulsation. So everything is pulsating. The cosmos is pulsating. Think now what we are talking in modern physics, right? And the way they viewed, the spanda viewed the world as constantly pulsating, vibrating. And there is no resting in a motionless state ever. So is that I'm restless? No, just because I'm consciousness and I'm in resting position, even then the pulsation is not erased. So the possibility of becoming, the possibility of self-expression is not taken away. Because my students say, what happens after liberation? And then because they don't know, liberation is the final thing. And then, but what if you want to have something more after liberation? Spanda is like, if your liberated state is one state of consciousness, and if you feel like coming to the world, it's just a pure will you can express through pure will and come to the world too and assume whatsoever the form you desire. So it's a constant unfolding of reality in the varied form. The reality is dynamic, not static. It is always, expressing itself. That's where spanda comes.
That is very interesting. So let's come back to some very mundane and easy topics and controversial. Why Tantra is being abused as a sort of a black magic, sort of a kind of a tool when you want to get things done in a wrong way. So is this part of your karma? Is it part of your destiny? So for example, in a layman's language, I tell you that if somebody wants to achieve something, he would go through some sort of mantras and practices and he gets it. So is this because he got it because he was destined to get it, or he got it through the help of this kind of mantra or whatever, kind of practices? So how and many times it has got ill effect also. So how do you basically justify this kind of practice? That is my first question. I'll come to next.
Yeah. So Tantra is a play with powers. And when you play with powers, it's both ways. It goes both ways. It's like if you want to learn swords fight, you have to just know that it can cut. A sword has the power. Or if you can refrain from having electricity in your house, which is very smart, by the way, if you are scared of electrocution. But you know what? There is a better, smarter way that have a good pay for electrician who knows, how to install electricity. And so you can use heater and refrigerator and fan and everything, AC and everything. So if Tantra is compared to energy, like electricity, you are going to have a choice either to run away and just like stay outside of the grid, or have a connection with the power, but know that it comes with the risk and you cannot play whatever the way you like. And that is where we get all the bad name, is because we are listing the people who have been electrocuted and saying this is what electricity does. And we are not talking about the light it has brought to civilization. It has brought to, think of the Hindu temples, basically. I mean, every single temple construction comes from the agamas. You are not going to find, if you remove the agamas, then there is no, like if you remove the text like Maya Mata, you are not going to have the knowledge of the architecture, tantric, the temple architecture. Where do you find? You are going to find all the descriptions for how to make these statues like so gorgeous. They all come from tantric text, how to, and so many, how to even explain Indian art and aesthetic. Forget about art and esoteric temple thing. How to even understand dance, like Bharatanatyam, for example, the mudras, they come from agamas. They all, I mean, the same person who is the foremost master of Tantra, the greatest of the Tantric philosopher, Abhinavagupta, also composed the most extensive commentary upon Bharatanatyam, a book on theatrics or dance, Why? Because these things are interrelated. You don't have, honestly, a culture if you remove Tantra. But people do not think of, oh my gosh, the whole mantra system, mandala system, temple structure, and the statues, and all these rituals, for example, they come from Tantra. People do not know about that. What people know is there is Shaitan Tantric. That's what people know. And there is this, he does, what he does is bhoot, there's some kind of exorcism he does. And then he may be, mesmerizing, like hypnotize somebody. He may be, put a curse in it. And so is it possible? Maybe, I haven't tried that and I cannot verify or reject those things. But I'm interested in sadhana for self-transformation, and Tantra provides that. And that is what is discussed like 90% of the text in Tantra. And then, but the popularity goes for this 10% of Tantra. And this is only one, like, the negative black magic side. And the other side is about combining Tantra with sex and those things. That is maybe your next question.
Yes, I wanted to know what is called tantric sex, what is called effect of the concept of black magic. If somebody has got that kind of effect on themselves, so how to get rid of it. So all these practices, I want you to define a little bit more in detail.
Hare Rama. Okay, so basically, Tantras cannot claim to take credit for making our love-making spiritual. I mean, I would love to give Tantra the whole credit because I defend Tantra, but actually, even before Tantric traditions emerged, the Brahmana text and the Upanishad text are very explicit about some of these practices in which Usha Bhavagauta, Yosha Bhavagauta Magni, like your woman herself is the fire and you libate in her. And that is where, the whole fire ritual is kind of mapped in the body of, in the act of lovemaking. I'm citing Upanishads, okay? So it was there, but yes, maybe in some Tantra text, they referred more often, and they might have been abused to in historical time, because there are always some people, there are always some who take it to little extreme. That's all. The ideas are noble ideas, to recognize your body as divine and every act as divine, and including your lovemaking as divine and as a mechanism. Why can't this experience that is so physical but at the same time be very spiritual? And then this idea is very alien, particularly to the West, because I have written in the past that the way modern India thinks about Tantra is like from the angle of these black magic, somebody, sacrificing a child or something. And the West, when they think of Tantra as a sex, tantric sex. So it comes also from sexually repressed society where, sex was always viewed as sin and, some kind of forbidden thing by the God. And fortunately in Shaiva Shakta tradition, at least Tantra, it's very much part and parcel of us recognizing our being in the world, and therefore no God has forbidden these things. And so this is, there is nothing to feel sinful about it. Yeah.
That's so wonderfully you said, because I really, I seriously feel like laughing when I read about this topic as sinful and in the Western world and Western philosophies, because our very own existence is out of it. So, how can that be sinful? And if they consider that we are part of divine force, then obviously then if this system is being introduced to repercussion to bring more life to the world, it cannot be sinful. So now I mean you still haven't answered clearly about the practices, because I already the moment I shared this topic with people, I already got these questions before I was even before this session, that if somebody is, I mean if they think that somebody has got that kind of ill effect, what is the remedy, where they go, what do they do, what is required to do, and why. I don't understand why they think that they have been influenced by such mantras or something or such practices. But if at all somebody is, then what is the remedy?
I don't know. I mean, let me try to answer in a very simple way, because if you are trying to cut the line and the policeman in the front beats you up or throws you out, then you want another shortcut now, because you are asking for a remedy. Is like first you try to cut the line by by aid of some shaitan tantric who claims in the crossroad, I'm going to fix all the things in your life. Those are karmic flows. We are not practicing using sadhana. It's a devotional path. Tantra is a path that combines devotion, surrender, and we expose ourselves with total humility to Kali or to whatever the deity we are worshiping, and we are trying to use that energy to channel into something. You want to cut a line to get a job where more qualified people would be getting the job. And then now, because something happens as a consequence, because number one, at least in the beginning, our attitude should not be about that quick fix tantra. Our attitude should be about learning tantra for self-realization and transformation and self-empowerment, because many people are told they cannot do it. Tantra gives this power, immense power. Like what did my father give to me? My father died, this year. And the more I think about what he gave to me, I'm here for what my father gave to me. I mean, he was a poor village Brahmin, there was no money for him to give. But what self-conviction and sadhana he imparted with me everywhere I went. In every part of the world I've traveled, I have, gained immense support from people, and I've never felt hopeless and helpless, because I've always felt that I have this divine power inside me, and no power, even an entire civilizational power, can domesticate and control and put me in chain. So this sometimes is a scary field, because if that type of empowerment comes in a wrong hand. But yeah, I mean, I've faced very stressful situation. Even in the reason I left Nepal was I got heartbroken. These Maoists, vandalizing, and they just even attacked me in the classroom. I was even physically abused. But the idea is that I was not scared of what they did. I had to think of, I have to make a smart decision for my family, but I didn't run because I was just so, because it takes away your sense of fear. And you know, that is just imagine the fundamental thing, you know, in the beginning. Why do tantric people go to isolation, do practice in the forest during the night, or maybe even cremation grounds? These are basic metaphors, the way we are taught fear, darkness, death. When you have not much of a fear left from death, when you embrace Kali, what is embracing Kali? She's waiting there for you to greet upon your death. I mean, then you are a fearless person. And you know, how many people, how many girls are abused because she is imposed this fear, either culturally or by parents, or because of in education. And these practices would give them liberation. That is, you know, like there are many types of liberation. Moksha. What do you do with moksha going after life? You need moksha right now, moksha from our social conditioning. Tantra is doing this moksha from whatever I do is not because I am told this book has told me this. I do it because I know it is the right thing to do. So I'm not chained by the books. You know, Tantra is, while themselves being books, yet another books, they help us free even from themselves. They are not yet another disciplines. They are the liberation from the disciplines. And that is scary. If you are trying to domesticate people and make them behave in a particular structure, and that is why power has always scared of Tantra. And that is why Tantra is a misnomer in both home or the West, because it helps people seek their freedom, take their quest of freedom on their own hand, explore for their own personal experiences, and justify teachings based on their private personal experiences, and not be controlled by the churches or temples, by the priests of whatever the faith, you know. People say they have direct access to the divine because it's inside you. And that is kind of frightening if you are trying to control these people by religious institutions or political institutions.
That is very true. Actually, you're quite inspiring, because I really want our audience to know that this knowledge can empower them. This knowledge can help you even in these modern days. So, what do you recommend to do or study for a beginner? Like, for example, somebody wants to know. So, which kind of book you suggest, and what one should practice to get that power in their personality?
No, there are some really applicable books for meditation. When we are talking about I need power, I need fixing, what I need first, what every individual needs first. Vaishali, everybody is born with particular potential. It's not creation mere of the humans. We copy, like I have this cup, you know, and then there you want to buy a cup like this, I can buy 1,000 for you. But nature does not do that. There is no copying in the nature of exact duplication. Nature makes almost identical, but not totally identical. Anything, two siblings, not absolutely identical. So you are unique, and you should use Tantra to first of all discover what is that unique inside you. And when you find that uniqueness inside you, it should empower you. It should make you feel like that is what I'm supposed to do. Now, your neighbor's son is in wants to be an astrophysicist. And then, you know, you think, oh my gosh, if my son is not going to be astrophysicist, my neighbor will keep talking non-stop. I have to make him astrophysicist too. I'm talking general psyche, you know. And then, is the karma of your son to be an astrophysicist? Have you ever thought of what karma he's born with, and what would fulfill his life in the sense of not coming back in the same level of consciousness to evolve into higher forms of consciousness? No, who cares? We want him to be successful. And what is successful? Being like neighbor's son. That is, you have already limited the parameters, not based on his potentials, based on the potentials of somebody else. That is not him. You have already destroyed life. So most of us are living that type of fragmented life, which are not part of our karma. Our parents wanted to make money and then they could not, and they are telling their kids to make money, and they are living, their children are living the incomplete life of their parents, what their parents could not do. And now they are like a, this footnote in the real life of their parents, and then the grandparents. So that is how we are making. So what Tantra would do first, Vaishali, is give us that freedom to see inside and see true potentials that we are coming with. And then that is the beginning of self-empowerment. When I don't even know what is my true power, how can I be empowered in doing something that is not mine? And then that is recognizing my true powers. And then with the practice of Tantra, of course, then like a visualization, of course, it would help us not just to recognize what I have, but to magnify and then to maximize, and then, to increase that, like a seed. You have the little flare, like little spark of light. And then, if you have a spark, you have a bonfire. You need to know that. Only the situation and the condition. Is there a spark or not? That is what matters. And then if there is the spark, then there is also the huge fire. It's just a matter of finding the fuel. That's all that is there. And then you have to provide the appropriate fuel for the particular energy you have. And to go to like a really basic, where to start from. I'm a classicist. I'm going to tell you to read the original books like Vijnana Bhairava. When I was 16 and my Guruji Prem Chetan gave me initiation, and maybe within 6 months, I found this book in the library, and I didn't know what it was, and I handled it, and it gave me some kind of experience I'm not going to even talk about right now, but it's just changed my life. And then I found a teacher who had written a commentary on that book, Brajbala Dwivedi, in Banaras. That was one of the things why I wanted to go to Banaras to study the text with himself, who had this 20th century Sanskrit commentary based on all the earlier Kshemarajas and everybody's commentary. And so Vijnana Bhairava, you can practice. Like a Pratyabhijna Hridayam, you should study. It's available in English translation, Hindi translation, Nepalese translation, and then if there are more different translations required, I keep writing and I post whatever I write in the academia and make it free, so people don't have to pay. It's in a free download. People can download whatever is written. The people who are working in these areas are also interested in sadhana, like a practice. And then like you can start from reading or practicing teachings of Swami Lakshmanju. He was a giant of the 20th century, and there are many people who are teaching from the direct disciples of Lakshmanju, so the people can go and learn from them. So there are many ways to actually get connected to real Tantra, not this Bajari, market thing where there is a lot of transaction. Like you give me this much. If you are looking for a sadhana, a sadhaka is not going to say, if you give me $1,000, I'm going to give you this mantra, and this will fix. Because that is where today the problem is. People are trying to buy the divine power. How on earth can you buy? How can one person control and channelize the power that is above human capacity? And we believe in that. That is a mistake. We surrender to that. And that is how we let that to unfold through us, in us. That is, in my opinion, more appropriate approach than trying to purchase those powers in the supermarket as if like commodities. The problem is not about Tantra. The problem is us. We trying to commodify it. We believe that because we have now money, I have even fancy car, good house, let me buy God. Okay, it doesn't work that way.
You actually made me laugh throughout last few minutes. Yes, we are trying to buy God because now we think we are capable of doing everything. We have made and conquered the world, and now let's see how God comes to my kitty like any other thing. So very true. So, okay, I still have quite a few questions, but I'm just wondering which one to ask. I wanted to understand uh, when you say agam, you said agam. Uh, what is agam? Let's define this for our audience. What is agam? Because of course they know, they've heard of Vedas and Puranas and Upanishad and all that. So what is agam?
From the Shaiva perspective, when we are using the term agama, they are the authoritative texts just like the Vedas, and we do not trace any human agency in that. I mean, theoretically speaking, these texts are coming in a direct conversation between Lord Shiva and Parvati. Of course, in the first set, you have the Skandas and other persons coming too, but the idea anyway is nevertheless, this is a dialogue. This is the truth. Agama is the truth revealed by the Lord in the most intimate moment of having conversation with his consort. And she raises questions non-stop. She is the eternal inquiry. Parvati is this eternally. Srutam deva maya sarvam sarat sara vivaga saha. So I have heard everything, but even now my doubts remain, my Lord. And is this the duality? Is it the non-dual? So this is always in this question forms, and sometimes Bhairava asking questions, sometimes the goddess asking questions. The particular set of texts that are written in this dialogical form, I've written also on this dialogical nature of agamic revelation. And what we find very insightful is the agamas also try to go outside of human agency, because the truths, even though the dialogues, words themselves might have some historical limitations when it came through, but the truth they are describing is not conditioned historically, because the truth is eternal. If you say water is fluid, I mean, maybe you didn't know the idea like as a child and you were only exposed to snow and then you first encountered flowing water. But this is not that you discovered something or you made it like that, the sun shines and this is the light. If you are living in a cave forever and then you never knew the sun shines and it's light illuminating everywhere, just because you discovered just now coming out of the cave, you did not make the sun shine. Therefore, agamas are not composed by individuals like in the sense of making something new, but what they are describing are also the eternal laws of the nature, the energies that work in the field of consciousness and in the field, you can say, of the mind. If there are these rishis who are meditating for years and years and years in their life, and they don't have to worry about the stock market plunging or, real estates, they are no worry about mortgage, for example, and, who is riding the fancy cars, So what all they did was refined these practices and hone these practices, and they recognize the power of the mind. So what do agamas teach? That your mind has immense power and better transform your mind. And then do not trap yourself into, it's also your mind. And what is the consequence of like a bad magician doing something? I can't say you deserve it, because that is mean way of saying, but what you are looking for it though, you're trying to, get away from, oh, can I do some magic because my neighbors, they have chicken and they enter the fence line, and then can you do some mantra to kill the chicken? And then they end up killing your own dog, and then you are now crying, oh my gosh, yeah, sorry, but you kind of deserve it.
So where do you find this agam text? Which book and what to read? Where to start?
So these Pondicherry, for example, has published a lot of Siddhanta Agamas, and my own university, where I graduated from, Sampurnananda University, has published many agamas like Rudrayamala Tantra, Yogini Hridaya, Nityashvara Karanava. My Guruji, Pandit Brajbala Dwivedi, edited, like Ashtaprakarana, many agamic texts, Yogini Hridayam, Nityashvara Karanava. So these texts are available, but for I don't think many of the works of Gopinath Kaviraj have been translated into English, but for people who are fortunate to speak and read Bengali, good for you. His works are available. He's my guru's guru, and but I read only the text available in Hindi and English by him, and there are many other people working in this field. Like you can study this like studying any other field. It's nothing to be worried, concerned, because the West is studying all aspects of Tantra. Many Western scholars are reading about it, and our own people should not be left behind thinking, if I open this book, some magic will happen. Especially, it's regrettably, I should tell you, I worked in National Archives in cataloging books, for several years when I was an undergraduate student. And I would come across some books, where people have poured water and things like that, it's just like worshipping. You can find that happening everywhere, in any part of the subcontinent. And we are turning from book studying to book worshipping people. And that is to me frightening, more frightening than people who want to get a mantra to kill the chicken of their neighbors,
Okay, so in Vedas there is something called Aranya text, which is to be practiced in the jungle, and those texts are also considered to be part as black magic or whatever in modern world. So what is those Aranya text, and are they same as Agam or similar to Agam, or what is it? Or
in the corpus of the Vedas, you have the Veda or the Siddhanta Mantra, Samhita section, and then you have the Aranyakas, or the text composed in the forest. Aranya means forest in Sanskrit. Yeah. So Aranyaka composed by the people who were living in the forest, the people who are Vanaprastha, who are living in the Vanaprastha life, or sannyasins who are living that hermit type life, isolated from the crowd, isolated from politics in particular, day-to-day politics in particular. And they also have immense amount of sadhana. Again, because people are not reading. Many Upanishads are part of the Aranyaka, like Taittiriya Aranyaka, Brihad Aranyaka, that's a part of Upanishad, for example. So it's a text of self-realization. I mean, can you find some ritual practices for immediate gain? Yes, you can. Is it good? It's outside of good and bad, because the scope of morality doesn't apply to ritual performance. Ritual performances are ritual performances. How do you apply? In which context you apply? Is a sword moral? That is not an applicable question. How do you use the sword is the question. You can defend the weak, you can defend the helpless, then it becomes absolutely moral. You can use that to terrorize people. You can use that to kill innocent people and children and women, and that is immoral. The same way, mantras have power, rituals have power. People have believed in these things. People have practiced. I practice these things. And if I myself use that in harm's way, then that is immoral. If I myself use that for upliftment of myself and the humanity, and that is the right thing to do. So it is like money, essentially. How do you use your money? And yeah, it is mortifying. It's a if you have the money, then you are likely to do a lot of things. Some of them might not be very moral. But nobody is choosing to remain a beggar because, oh my gosh, if I have the money, then I might do bad things. Let me just go and sleep in the street and not make any penny. It is not how people should be thinking. They should be rich, successful, the same way they should practice Tantra. But then if it's a valid thing of thinking about misuse of Tantra, which is quite possible. And then therefore we have to study Shastras. This is why, like a Vimarsha, I'm running a Vimarsha foundation where primarily I teach people Shastras, Shastric discourses. Right now, currently I'm teaching Tripura Rahasya, a lengthy philosophy. And people ask me, why these philosophies? Why can't you just teach us some, tantric practice? I cannot. That is not how my teachers have ever allowed me to disseminate any teaching, any shastras, because first of all, you have to cultivate your mind, you have to cultivate your heart, you have to think of yourself as a much bigger person in a bigger reality than simply thinking in this narrowest world composed of the success of your neighbor's son and your own son. And then when you recognize your bigger self, and that is where Vedanta comes into play. That is where Agamas come to play. And when somebody has cultivated the heart of a sadhika, a real practitioner, then I'm open to discuss those practices only to the people who are first qualified by studies, So therefore, people start practice without actually studying. And that, in my opinion, is wrong. And that is not how my Gurujis, my teachers taught me. And they always combined Vedanta along the side of Tantra. Many people view they are opposite, but we didn't find them opposite. They helped each other, and so we have to also study. Every system comes with some kind of, like you want to buy like IKEA. I hate IKEA. I don't know if you know IKEA, and everybody knows IKEA. I don't like them because without my kids I can't fix anything from IKEA. But it's like, you want to buy a package because it is cheaper, and then you don't want to read that basic literature they send with you, how to fix it, how to install it. And then you have this huge pile of all the wood, and then you just put your mattress. Oh, this is my bed I got from IKEA. No, that's not how it works. You have to open the manual and then actually fix everything. And there's a part everything goes. They're resisting to read is like they're resisting. You first toss that paper out, as soon as you open the box. And because you have all the wood, you don't need the paper, you toss it out. And then you have this pile. That is what practice is today. And the Shastras teach us how to arrange those things. And then you are not sleeping in the pile of wood.
That is so very true. So now we are almost close to our end of the session, but I have one more question that if you want to give one message to those who are seekers, here I'm not talking about the laymen and the beginners in this knowledge, but the seekers who think they can make something better out of agamas. So maybe one particular agam sutra you can recommend, or you can tell them how they can practice.
First of all, I would say be open to studying Vedanta. My Tantra Guru sent me to Vedanta Guru. So there is meaning to that. And it should open up your worldview a little bit bigger. And then in the case of Tantra, you start from Shiva Sutra. Why to wander everywhere? Read. It's not a lot of reading required. It's some 77 sutras, like 77 sentences. You start from the Shiva Sutra. You are going to find it in English or Hindi or any translation. I don't know how many, but there are like different types of easy, simplified, or sophisticated. I read Kshemaraja's commentary because I can, but not like everybody is trained in Sanskrit. So just start from the Shiva Sutras or Pratyabhijna Hridaya, anything basic, or come to Vimarsha. That is what I've started this for, so that people can actually study real agamas in the more or less like a modern classical setting.
That is true. Okay, and if I want to practice to empower myself, so what should I read For example, let's define. If I want to say get a good degree, or I want a good life partner, or I want wealth. So, what do you recommend to achieve those things with the help of Tantra?
That is a very difficult, tough thing, Vaishali, because the way people are trying a quick fix, I think that if you want to get a good husband, then maybe go to dating instead of doing mantras, because it might you might be missing out. You are in the room like doing mantras, and other girls are out there finding their grooms. I don't know. Maybe I'm not helping you here.
This is not the answer. No, no, no. I just want to see. I've got these questions on my phone, and I just saw that. So their
Okay.
idea is they think, because from your talk also we thought that when we want to achieve something, when we want to empower ourselves,
The
Tantra.
first thing, okay, Vaishali, now, yeah, I have to tell you. The first thing is stop Googling for what mantra works for what particular achievement. Stop that right now. Find a teacher, really find a teacher, and learn from your friends, whether that is actually a teacher or whether he's just a charlatan. And do not get carried away, because Tantra texts give you like 64 different descriptions for whether someone qualifies to be a teacher. It is perfectly okay to examine your teachers. That is very rational, very appropriate. And then learn from a teacher. Do not just randomly pick up something from the book. It can be, hello, young man. Oh my gosh, you have a bright future there. Oh, that is future. Yeah, he has like a future in his t-shirt. So, so I ask all of you who are watching this thing to not rely on Google as a guru, and not just fall for the gimmick in the crossroad, and actually do it. It is like swimming, Vaishali. I'm not evading the question, but you ask a manual for swimming, you ask a manual for bicycling. Why can't you give me a literature for marathon running? No, all the books written for a successful swimming, how to become a successful swimmer for the Olympics. People might buy those books, but you have to jump into water and you are going to be drowned. Therefore, you need a mentor who knows how to swim. These are therefore why these were kept secret before. Why these agamas were not published, even like open books, because they were always shared by a mentor who has lived it, who has practiced it. Therefore, any random picking up, and this does not work. I tried this. Many people have told me, I tried this and never worked. It is what it was supposed to be. And then, but who taught you that? No, I picked from Google. It is available there. This is now not how it works.
That is very true. I was just checking some of the questions we have received under the videos, and also on my WhatsApp. So basically, all people want is they just want quick fix, as I can see. Yes, yes. Yeah, I think so. They are looking for some sort of mantra out of you to fix their problems. I guess that is what they mean. But anyway, I think with this we will end our session, and we give out this message that there is no quick fix mantra out of Tantra philosophy. All they have to do is they have to study clearly from their respected gurus, and get this knowledge from traditional schools. Am I right or not?
That is the way I understand. And any random picking, because the tantras explicitly forbid learning practice from someone who has not practiced himself. It is like learning swimming from someone who has never, swum in his life. That is dangerous. And would you go, skydiving with a mentor who just has never even done any skydiving? That is crazy. Tantra is crazy because it's fire. It's like a learning to play with fire. It is like learning to walk through the edge of the sword, and that is basically where you want to cut a corner and save little penny. And well, we save humiliation. Why should I have a teacher, because it's humiliating? And stop worshiping your ego, and things will come better in your life.
Thank you so much, Sthaneshwarji. I'm so happy to have this conversation with you, and I'm so glad that you have cleared so many myths in people's mind, because they really thought it is something like only influencing and going for a shortcut to achieve anything in life, or influencing others' life in a wrong way. So a lot of people thought, and even I, of course, I've read quite a few things, but still you told me things which I had not thought about, and I'm so glad that even personally for me it was quite enlightening. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Of course.
Namaste.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Namaste.